What's up, y'all? It's your girl Ashley Charnay, and I'm back again for another video. As you guys can see by the title, this is going to be more of a serious video that I do. It's probably going to be one of the most serious videos that I do on my channel. This is a very long awaited video from my friends and my family and just, you know, the people who know me. I decided to put this video out on my son's second birthday. So when this video uploads, it will be November the 6th, and it will be 2 years since I lost my son and gave birth to my son. And you know, I really just felt like I needed to put this video out, not only for people to hear my story and for people to, you know, kind of relate to what I've been through. I definitely feel like this video is going to be able to help some people and just learn from some of the mistakes that I made personally. And you know, it's not only for other people, but it's for myself, because I feel like it's going to be very therapeutic for me to talk about, only because I've never really talked about everything that I went through my pregnancy and, you know, things like that. So I definitely feel like this is, you know, something that's going to help me and help others as well. So if you guys are interested in hearing my story, please continue to watch. This video is going to be as unedited as possible. Because it's such a long story, and because I'm going to go into detail about everything that I've been through since the time that I found out that I was pregnant up until today. It's probably going to be split into 2 parts, but definitely the first part of this video should be up by November the 6th, which is my son's birthday. And so, like I said, it's going to be completely unedited as much as possible. The only parts that I may edit out are the parts of if I start to break down and things like that, only because for the people who really know me, they know that I'm not really an emotional person. I don't get too emotional like that, and when I do, I like to kind of do those things on my own. And when I grieve, or as I'm still grieving for my son, I kind of like to do that on my own, and I don't really feel like I want to share that more so with the internet, only because I know some people can kind of take that in the wrong way. I'm not doing this video for sympathy. I'm not doing this video for people to feel sorry for me. I'm not doing this video to bash anyone at all in any way, shape, form, or, you know, things like that. I'm doing this video for others and for myself. Okay guys, so I guess I'm really gonna just jump into the video and kind of start from the first time that I found out I was pregnant. So I found out that I was pregnant in March of 2015. I believe it was about the end of March, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was about the end of March. I was having some stomach pains and things like that, and you know, at this time, I believe my son's father and I don't know. Okay, so here's just the gist of our relationship. My son's father and I have been on and off since since December of 2011. And up until this point. So at this point, it's been about maybe 4.5 years or so, because it was March of 2015. And we were at our off state at this point when I found out that I was pregnant. Him and I, usually when we do break up, it's not, to me, and actually to the both of us, it's not really a breakup, because we still would see each other every day. We would still be, you know, involved with each other and things like that, and going places. So it really wasn't like we were broken up, really. At this point, I kind of felt like we were kind of starting to drift away from each other. We were still seeing each other, and we were still hanging out and things like that, but at this point in time, I did start to get involved with someone else. Now, me and this other person were not involved sexually. I just kind of, you know, was in the beginning of the talking stages with this person, because of the simple fact that I had been broken up with my ex for about maybe 3 months or so. And so anyway, I ended up getting stomach pains this one day, and it was really bad, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And so my mom's like, okay, let's just go to the emergency room, let's see what's up. So we go to the emergency room, and my stomach cramps, they're starting to get really, really, really bad. And you know, I'm getting seen by the doctor, and he's like, you know, hey, could you possibly be pregnant? And I'm like, no, like, there's no way that I could be pregnant because I'm not having sex with anybody. Mind you, the last time that I had sex with my son's father is February 14, 2015, which was Valentine's Day, which was about a month or so prior. And it was something that it never would have crossed my mind that I could have been pregnant. And so they kept asking me, my mom was like, are you sure you're not pregnant? I'm like, no, like, I'm not pregnant. There's no way that I could be pregnant. And the reason why I say this is because I'm someone who does not have regular periods. My periods are very irregular, and it's been like that since maybe 2009-ish. So I was still in high school at that point. Now my periods have been so irregular, so I wouldn't know if I was pregnant or not, or, you know. And so prior to me finding out that I was pregnant, this was not my first pregnancy with my son's father. I was in the ER. I ended up finding out that I was pregnant, and I was just scared as fuck because I'm like, okay, I'm pregnant. Like, oh my God. At this point, I'm 21 years old. I had a little bit going for myself. You know, I had a job. I had a good job. I actually had 2 jobs at the time. I was working in the hair salon, and I believe I was working at either Target or Walmart. No, I lied. I was working for the Western Dental corporate office, and I also was working at a hair salon at the time, and I was also going to school part-time at night, and I had my own car. And so, you know, I was kind of doing okay for myself. I was still living at home with my parents, so I didn't feel like I really had everything together. And on top of that, my son's father and I were not together. And so you know, that was just something different for me. And so I ended up texting him while I was in the hospital, and I'm like, hey, I'm pregnant. And his text back to me was, okay, so what are we gonna do? I just told him, you know, I'm not giving my baby up. I'm not terminating this pregnancy. You know, to me, I felt like it was a sign from God. And, you know, I'm not trying to throw any religion on anybody, and I'm not even the type of person to do that. But me personally, I felt like it was a sign from God, and I wasn't about to terminate my pregnancy, no matter what the relationship was between my son's father and I. And so he was like, okay, like, I'm with whatever it is that you want to do. We gonna work it out. We gonna figure it out, whatever. And so, you know, I told my dad. Actually, I had my mom tell my dad, because I'm like, I'm not telling daddy. Like, you're gonna have to tell him. It is what it is. And so at this time, I was really, really, really sick. The reason for me having those stomach pains was because I had a urinary tract infection. And so I got my medicine for that, and I believe they gave me, or no, they had me go to Walmart to get some over-the-counter prenatal pills. And so at the time, I was taking the medicine for the UTI, and I was also taking the medicine, the prenatal pills. And so at that time, it was making me very, very, very sick. I couldn't eat anything. I was throwing everything up. I would try to go brush my teeth, and I would throw that up. Like, even when I brushed my teeth, like, it was like a horrible first 3 months. The first 3 months of my pregnancy was horrible. I was sick. I wasn't eating. I believe I lost about 40 pounds in the first 3 months of my pregnancy. I lost about, I lied. I lost about 25 pounds in the first 3 months of my pregnancy because I wasn't eating. And so at this time, I had quit my job at Western Dental because they weren't allowing me to take the time off because I was so sick. They were not allowing me to take that time off. So I did end up quitting that job. I was out of a job for about maybe 2 months. So I was getting unemployment. I was getting money. The money wasn't an issue. It was just the fact that I was at home all day. And at this time, my mom as well, she had she had took a leave from her job, and so she wasn't working. But money was never an issue. So I wasn't stressing about money or anything like that. But I was very sick. Now, I was starting to get tired of being at home all the time with my mama. I love my mama, y'all, but it was time for me to just, you know, get away from her just for a little bit. And so I started applying to different jobs, and I ended up getting a call from the County of Los Angeles, and I ended up getting a job with the county, and that's where I currently work now. But and so, you know, I had this new job and things like that. Me and my son's father, we were on okay terms. You know, I would still see him almost every day. You know, we would still hang out, we would still do things like that. And then towards maybe my 4th month, things kind of, my 4th and 5th month, things started to change a lot. I was still pretty sick at this time, but it wasn't as bad as it was the first 3 months. And so when I say things changed drastically, it was between him and I. He kind of started to not really answer my phone calls like that. He wasn't really interested in when I, you know, went to the doctors. He wasn't like really, you know, checking on me to see if I was okay at the doctor and things like that. Now, I can say that his sister was a lot more involved than he was as far as my pregnancy. She was definitely checking on me every day, asking me, hey, do you need someone to go to the doctor with you? You know, things like that. His sister was very, 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 very supportive, and I will always, always, always love her for that. She was very supportive when it came to things like that, and she was so freaking happy. She was so happy when she found out. But yeah, so he kind of wasn't really involved like that. And so it kind of started to weigh on me, and it kind of started to get, you know, a little depressing. And so one day I was on Twitter, and I ended up, basically the moral of the story of that is, I'm really not going to go into detail because I'm going to be here all fucking day, but the moral of that story is I found out that he was messing with someone else. And so at this time, I'm like, okay, does this person know that you have a baby on the way? Are you trying to hide the fact that you have a baby on the way? I feel like if you have the time and the effort to put into someone else that you're trying to talk to, you should be able to put in the time and the effort to see about your baby and to see about your son's mother, to see how I'm doing. Because I feel like ultimately, if the person that you're having a baby with, if they're not okay, your baby's not okay. Like, that's just that. And so I just really felt like he was really selfish in that moment. And to be completely honest with you, I was hurt. I was hurt completely, because I felt like, you know, he was paying more attention to that situation than he was to the situation that should have been his main priority. Now, at this point, him and I hadn't really, you know, talked about getting back together and things like that. Now, the thing with him was he liked to go back and forth with things. And at this point in my pregnancy, I was over it. I'm like, you're either going to be here or you're not. Like, that's just that. I don't want to go. I don't want to do the back and forth. I don't want to be stressed out. And so, you know, I actually confronted him about the situation with him and this girl, and he denied it completely. He's like, you know, this is just somebody that I met. I'm not really fucking with her like that. You know, it is what it is. So I'm like, okay. And then one day I actually see the girl mentioning him from something on Twitter, and I actually inboxed the girl, and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm his baby mama. Like, what's the deal? Like, since he's not going to be able to tell me the truth, or since he feels like he doesn't have to tell me the truth, maybe you can shed some light on the situation. And so, you know, her and I kind of had a conversation, and she's just like, you know, I know that you're his ex-girlfriend, but I never knew that, you know, he was having a baby, yada yada yada. And so it was just a big mess. Now, the issue that I had with this situation is that this person claimed to not have known that he was having a baby, but he posted a picture of my ultrasound when we found out that he was having, that I was having the baby, actually that I was having a boy. He posted the picture. So there's no way that you didn't know that he was having a baby on the way if he posted on Instagram. But that, like I said, that's neither here nor there, because I can't jump on her. More so, I would have to jump on him because she owes me no loyalty. He does. But at the same time, I can't respect a woman who is willing and ready to jump into a situation that a man is not even done with yet. But like I said, that's neither here nor there. So after I found out that he was talking to someone else, I was in a real state of depression. I was really depressed. I pretty much felt like I had to do everything on my own, as far as, doing the baby registry, planning for my baby shower. I definitely feel like I had to do all that stuff by myself, and I started to feel really alone. And like I said, even though my mom was there through everything, and his sister was being supportive, his mom was being supportive, I felt like I needed him. And so I felt like the person who should have been supportive and the person who should have had my back the most should have been him, but it wasn't him. And so the months go on, and he's constantly still, at this point, he's wanting to be a family again. He's like, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be there for my baby. You guys are not going to have to want for anything. And I'm going to do better. And I want my family. I want to be with my family. And so, of course, me being so in love with this person, there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to take him back, and that I was going to try to work on my family, because I want my... Okay, guys, so sorry about that. My camera died. But yeah, so basically, yeah, so the whole situation was just completely stressful, because after he had, declared his love and talked about how much he cared about his family and how he wanted to be this one big happy family, it was all just a big lie. And so he continued to mess with this girl, and at this point, I was not only feeling like hurt, but I was really disappointed. And the main reason why I was feeling disappointed was because I felt like he wasn't taking this seriously. I felt like the mindset that he should have had, and the mindset that should have kicked in as soon as he found out that he was becoming a dad, didn't kick in the same way that it did for me when I found out that I was becoming a mom, and that I was going to be responsible for this whole new life. I felt like the same things didn't kick in. But that's just what happens. And it was just really stressful. I was depressed. I was extremely depressed while I was pregnant. I couldn't even do things like try to go and shopping for my baby, and do things to prepare for his arrival. I did do those things, but it wasn't, I didn't enjoy it. My mom basically had to drag me out. I never wanted to go out, as far as, just doing stuff to get out the house, hanging out with my friends. I didn't do a lot of those things because I was so depressed, and all I wanted to do was sit at home and watch TV and lay in my bed and go to sleep all day. And, that's pretty common for being pregnant, but I felt like I should have been a lot more happy and things like that. And I felt like, after everything happened, I definitely felt like that's something that should have been the least of my worries. My number one priority should have been my son and the well-being of my son. This was my first baby, and I wasn't taking care of myself the way that I should have. Now going towards maybe the sixth month of my pregnancy. If some of you guys don't know, during the beginning of your pregnancy, they do test you for gestational diabetes, where you have to take a test. It's a long test where you have to go, they have to draw the blood, You come back in an hour, you drink a certain drink, a really sugary drink, and if your body doesn't react a certain way, then I guess they diagnose you with gestational diabetes. They do that twice, or they did it twice for me. I don't know how it happens for everyone else, but they did it twice for me. In the beginning, I showed no signs of it. At my 6th month, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And basically what gestational diabetes is you have diabetes for the duration of your pregnancy, and usually it'll go away after you have your baby. And so being diagnosed with that, I had to eat a lot better. And at this time, actually, I forgot to mention that this is when I actually started to be able to eat a lot more. So really that's all I was doing. I was going to work, I was eating, I was coming home, going to sleep, waking up, and doing the same thing all over again. And so at this point, I had to go see a specialist, on top of going to go see my regular OB. So I would have to go see a specialist, and this specialist was, you know, they specialized in gestational diabetes with pregnant women, and they would try to do things like try to see if they can get your sugar levels down, you know, first by exercising, and also seeing if you can monitor the way that you eat. If you can monitor the way that you eat, and if you can keep your blood sugar low, then you won't have to take insulin. And that was the case with me. I was able to eat healthy and, you know, keep my sugar low. And so that's how my gestational diabetes was being monitored and being dealt with. And so at this point in time, I had switched doctors completely. When I first found out I was pregnant, I was going to Kaiser. When towards the middle, I was on my dad's insurance, and I was going to Pioneer Medical Group. And then when my benefits kicked in from my new job, I went back to Kaiser. So I was kind of back and forth a lot. And this was towards the maybe the ending of my pregnancy, like 6 or 7 months, where I was back at Kaiser. And so I would try to, you know, do things to get out. So yeah, I was kind of back and forth through doctors and things like that. At this point in time, my son's father and I, we were starting to plan our baby shower. And at this point, I kind of was over, you know, trying to include him in things, because there would be things where I would invite him to that he wouldn't show up to. Sometimes I would ask him if he wants to go to the doctor with me today. He wouldn't want to come. You know, do you want to come with me to meet with the baby shower planner? He didn't want to come. And so it was just like I kind of was over trying to invite him to certain places and things like that. And so during my 8th month, I actually did a maternity shoot, and his friend was the photographer for the maternity shoot. The whole day for me was just really stressful. I had to drive all the way to Hollywood. And for those of you guys who live in LA, you guys know how that 101 traffic is to Hollywood. It is a fucking mess. It is terrible. But had to drive to Hollywood to get my hair done. Mind you, I believe it was about 100 and something degrees that day. I was swollen. I hadn't drank any water. I hadn't eaten all day. And so I was out in the sun, you know, trying to take these pictures. And it was just an all-around bad day for me. You know, and I take full responsibility for not drinking water, not eating, not trying to nourish my body for myself and for my baby. And I actually ended up in the ER that night. I was severely dehydrated. I had to stay in the hospital, I believe, for about maybe 8 to 10 hours to, you know, get an IV. I had to get hydrated. I had to get checked out. They had to check the baby out. So it was just an all-around mess. And, you know, I was starting to really feel, you know, my body starting to, I feel like it was, you know, kind of starting to break down. And it was just, it was stress. It was, you know, all of these medical issues that I was going through. I had been back and forth to the hospital throughout pretty much my whole pregnancy for certain scares. I remember I fell in the shower And, you know, like I said, at this point I was starting to eat a lot. And I have always been a thicker girl, but I have also always been a thicker girl with a very nice shape. Now, at this point, you know, I was starting to eat a lot and I was starting to gain the weight a lot. And having gestational diabetes, they try to keep the amount of weight down that you're supposed to gain a week. They try to keep that down, and they try to have you monitor that because they don't want you to have a really big baby. And for my baby, every time, you know, I went to go get checked, he was fine. Everything was fine. He was the perfect weight. He was, you know, the size that he was okay. And so when they were telling me these things, like, you know, your baby's okay, I was okay with that, not knowing that, you know, I'm putting on these pounds and it's not going to be that easy for you to lose it, you know, once it's over. And so we get to maybe like the end of my 8th month, and no, maybe the middle of my 8th month, and things are still the same with his dad and I, and my baby shower rolls around. Now at this point, him and I had gotten into a really big fight right before my baby shower, and I will never forget this because I believe we had been talking and hanging out a lot, and like I said, throughout the whole entire pregnancy we were kind of on and off. And towards the end, things started to get okay, and you know, I ended up finding out that he's still messing with this girl. And at this point, I was more than just pissed. I was embarrassed because she would post pictures of them and, you know, things like that, and I just felt like it was really disrespectful. Now, he would never go so far as to even post pictures or even claim her, rather. It's, you know, and LA is really small, so a lot of people would come to me and be like, hey, that's your baby daddy, and I see this girl posting pictures with your baby dad. You know, it was just like it was a really embarrassing situation. I think more than anything, I was embarrassed. And I felt like I was all by myself, and I felt like he wasn't getting the fact that I was so embarrassed and how this is making me look. And so I remember finding that out, and finding out that she's posted all these pictures of him, and I kind of just had like a really bad mental breakdown. And I remember throwing my phone at the wall. I didn't have my phone for my baby shower. You know, I kind of started to feel bad because I felt like my mom had the financial burden of pretty much everything. So basically, towards the end of the pregnancy, things were at an okay pace. I started to get really restless because I had felt like I had been pregnant for so long, and you know, things were starting to, I felt like they were starting to just really go in slow motion. Like my last couple weeks, they were going so much slow motion. And so, you know, I have been doing my doctor's visits regularly, and so this is kind of starting to get towards the end. This was, I believe, November the 1st when I had a doctor's appointment, and my doctor checked my cervix, and, you know, he wanted to see how far along I was, or, you know, if I had dilated or anything like that. And I believe I was about 3 centimeters, and so I wasn't ready to be admitted into the hospital yet. He told me to come see him on the 3rd, and so I made another doctor's appointment for the 3rd. He checked, and I believe I was about maybe 4.5 centimeters, so I wasn't really progressing that well. My original due date was November the 9th. And so November the 3rd, I had my doctor's appointment. He checked my baby's heartbeat. He checked my cervix. He checked everything. Everything was a-okay. And then we went to the office, and we actually scheduled an ultrasound for November the, not an ultrasound, I'm sorry. I can't think of it. A C-section. We did not schedule the C-section. We scheduled basically for me to start the process to have the baby. I can't even think of the word right now. he was going to induce me. So basically he was going to start up, you know, he was going to basically go in and break my water, and I was going to start the process to have my baby. And so I will never forget, it was a Wednesday night, and I believe my mom had asked me if I had felt Blake kick all day, and I told her, you know, no, I haven't really felt him kick. And mind you, Blake was really active in the morning and usually after I ate. And so it was about maybe 10 o'clock at night. I remember because I had just finished watching the Westbrook show, and my mom had asked me, you know, have you felt him kick? And I'm like, no, I haven't felt him kick. And she's like, well, we probably need to go to the ER because, you know, I'm worried that you know, you haven't felt him kick.